From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. So nice to see you here. If anybody is serious about Afro-Cuban music or Latin jazz, then surely you know the name Machito. One of the most important band leaders in American music. He more or less defines the genre, especially for this music in the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and 70s. We're going to celebrate his music and his legacy today. And I can't think of anybody better to help us do that than the gentleman sitting at my right. If you've been following Latin jazz, you know him as a world-famous percussionist. He worked in the studios, he recorded hundreds, maybe thousands of jingles and commercials. But I've been seeing him most recently with the Dizzy Gillespie Afro-Cuban Experience. In fact, that's when we first met face to face after a performance at the Kennedy Center. This is Mario Grillo, and I use that pronunciation.
Correct.
Yes. He took over leadership of the orchestra after his father died, and he has helped maintain this legacy. Now we have a special announcement that we're going to share with you in a few minutes, and we hope you're going to stick around for all of that. We'll talk a little bit about his father's music, and then we will open it up for any questions you might have. We also have some clips to share with you, so I think this will be fun. This is being videotaped for webcast, just so you'll know. I hope you'll help me welcome Mario Grillo.
Thank you for having me here.
It's our pleasure. Now, as I mentioned, everybody here in this room, I'm guessing, knows Machito's music. Let's see a show of hands. Oh, good sign. But not everybody knows about his biography, details about his life. And I want to start off by talking a little bit about that. Let's establish some facts, first of all. He was born when and where?
Machito was born December 3rd, 1908 in Havana, Cuba. He migrated to New York City in 1937. When he got here in 1937, he immediately started working with what few bands there were in New York City at that time. And I asked him how he did that, and he said, well, gigs, or, dances in those days paid $2, $3 for the night. So he would go to these dances with $10 in his pocket, or 20 bucks, and he'd go up to the singer in whatever band it was and tell him, listen, I'll give you $1 if you let me sing a tune. And that's how people started hearing him and knowing who is this Machito person. Shortly thereafter, he got with an incredible Puerto Rican band leader named Noro Morales, and he joined Noro's band. Then after that, a dear friend of his named Miguelito Valdez was working with Xavier Cugat and decided to leave and make his own band. So now he goes to Cugat and he tells him, I'm leaving the band, but I got a guy that can do the job, This guy's dynamite, he can do it. He said, but how can that be? I'm recording next week. There's no way he's gonna learn this new material and everything in a week's time, no way. He said, no, don't worry about it. This guy will do it. And of the tunes that Noro Morales picked, he picked one which is a standard called Cachita. And that was a blockbuster hit, sold I don't know how many copies. And from there, the rest is history. He went to work with a band, Alberto Isnaga and Estrella Habanera. And like all musicians do, and we still do it today, you pirate a band out of the band that you're in. So then he took the bass player, the piano player, the trumpet player, the sax, he took like the entire band and made his own band. And his first arranger was Jose Madera Sr., Bing Madera. He had his own band in 1939. But then in 1940, my beloved uncle and namesake, Mario Bowser, was musical director with Chick Webb. He had gone with Cab Calloway, Noble Sissel, the Missourians. I mean, all this kind of crazy stuff. And he tells my father, Macho, I want to stay in New York, man. I don't want to keep traveling. I want to be in the city permanently. And they reorganized the orchestra again. But when Mario came to the band, he came with this idea and this concept of taking a big band concept, a big band jazz concept, but put a Latin rhythm, an Afro-Cuban rhythm section underneath it. From there came things like tanga, later on Dizzy Gillespie, with Chano Pozo de Manteca. These were the groundbreaking tunes which established what then they called the Q-bop period, along with bop and bebop period. I would say that 95% of the work that Machito did was in jazz clubs, like the Birdland and the Royal Roost and Bop City, different places like that. He did do the Latin scene, so to speak, Chateau Madrid and things along those lines. But it always tended to be more of a jazz side to the band. Mr. Appelbaum was asking me, and I was telling him about this whole thing of Machito and his Afro-Cubans. Okay, people would ask him, Machito, who are your Afro-Cubans? He goes, okay, Mark Friedman, Ken Hitchcock, Leslie John. I mean, his thing was he didn't need Afro-Cubans. What he needed was musicians, guys who came with that big band experience. Many of the guys that came to our band had come out of Duke Ellington's band and Woody Herman's band and Buddy Rich's band, Thad Jones, Mel Lewis Orchestra. So they already came prepared. The only thing that was always difficult is to find that clave, to be able to connect with that clave. But they found very easily.
Can I just ask you quickly,
yeah.
for anybody watching this
Yeah.
webcast, what is clave?
Well, clave is it's a 2-bar phrase, 4-bar phrase. It could either be 3-2 or 2-3. So it could be or you can reverse it to That's where you get the description from dancers who say that they dance on 2. And it's because of the way that the clave falls in that rhythmic pattern. But I was telling Lara that, clave is in everything. Beethoven's 5th is in clave. That's in clave. So it's nothing new, but it certainly is the core of what we play. It's a very clave-driven music. I can't play out of clave.
It's the heartbeat.
It's the pulse. And I have found that I've given up. I can't. I just, I'll just like bluff around when that jump comes, So I'll be and I'll come right back in again because it's just, I really can't play out of clave. Now I'm playing, it was a funny thing, working with Dizzy Gillespie band and in more of a jazz format, the clave is very flexible. You can go back and forth in the middle of a tune. I find it tough to do. It's cool because now I look for it. I'm conscious of it and I know when that jump is going to come. But initially, no, I found it quite difficult to do. But it's just what's within you.
2 quickies. Did people call him, his friends, did they call him Macho?
Macho.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody called him Frank
No.
or Francesco?
And strangely enough, in our family, we have some here, everybody's Frank. My brother's Frank, his son is Frank. My daughter's Francesca. My brother-in-law is Frank, his son is Frank. We have another twin, Frank, that we call Cockeye Frank. He's Frank. We have Baby Frank, who is Frank Sarica. We have the other Frank, Hartman, whatever. So when you say Frank in our house, like everybody's like, because there's like 7, 8, or 9 of them. But they know who they are by the tone of your voice, We always laugh because Frank Sarica, the baby, we always used to call him Frank the Greek because for his first couple of years, we didn't know what the heck he was saying. But there's a whole bunch of Franks. But no, Macho, I would think everybody just called him Macho.
Speaking of family, when did he meet your mother, Hilda?
He met my mother about 1940.
And how did they meet?
He saw, now they call them stalkers. In those days, it was a little different. He saw this beautiful girl go by. That was it. There's 5 of us. They're pretty busy.
And you, in order of 5, which are you?
Next to last, it's my sister Martha, my brother Frank, Barbara, me, and my little sister Paula.
Paula. She's a singer, yeah?
Yes.
She sang with the band.
One. I threw her out of the band. She came to me one day and asked for a raise. I didn't think that was a good idea. But she is quite fantastic.
Now, you are a percussionist, as I mentioned. Did you study your father's music, or was it just around the house?
You know what? It's very sad. We didn't listen to Daddy's music. Why? Here's a guy walking around in his underwear every day. I mean, he didn't impress us. So we didn't know, who he was, but tremendous person.
So, you grew up with this man. The world knows him for his musical contributions.
Yeah.
He's a very important figure around the world. And yet for you, he's Daddy, So at one point, did you realize
Never.
who he was?
We still don't.
Huh?
No clue.
And yet all the musicians you work with, they all revere him, yes?
Well, because he was a very simple and very approachable individual. He believed that there should be no dead chairs in an orchestra, meaning traditionally it's always the tenor sax that plays the solos. It's the third trumpet that always plays the solos. No, he would turn around and point to anybody. And I asked him one day, I told him, why do you do that? Why does everybody get to play? There's supposed to be soloists in the band, not everybody. He goes, no, because if this band knows that I'm going to turn around and point to them to come up front, they're going to practice their instrument. They're going to send their suit to the dry cleaner. They're going to polish their shoe. They're going to iron their shirt. And they're going to be looking for the opportunity when they know they can come out front and let people know what they can do. So I don't want no dead chairs in my band. Everybody plays. I do it still. I had one guy come in from Ray Charles Orchestra, tremendous saxophonist. So we're in the middle of a tune, So I turned around, I pointed to him, keep on playing. He didn't get up, Now I'm playing, I turn around, he didn't get up, So now we finished the concert.
That's good.
We finished the concert, and I go over to him and say, yo, bro, I pointed to you like 2-3 times. He says, yeah, I was wondering why you were pointing at me. And I told him, bro, I want you to play. I want you to come up and play. He goes, play what? I told him, a solo, man. You play solos, don't you? He said, I was in Ray Charles' band 5 years. I never played a solo. I told him, I said, no, man, this is a different thing here. Everybody plays. He goes, wow. And without skipping the beat, he says, man, now I'm going to send my suit to the cleaners. And it hit, it struck me. And I was like, he was right. Yeah. So I do, everybody gets to play, except me. I'm not a soloist. I used to be when I was 5, but I kind of got away from that.
Well, you were playing at a very young age. I mean, you were making records in the
Well,
teenage years.
I started playing in my father's band when I was 5. Then I came into the band regular when I was 15. I was in high school. I was a freshman in high school. But I started recording when I was like 14. Daddy used to send me to the recordings, jingles, we call them radio commercials, TV commercials. And that's how I started. So I did 1,000 jingles and commercials and many, many recordings of albums with other artists. My wife laughs because now I've come full circle. After like 40 years, I'm playing what we call toys again, tambourines and shakers and claves and things. I had gotten away from that. But I've come right back to that with Dizzy Gillespie Band, and it's been incredible, because it gives you so much more to reach for in the course of a performance. So that's really, really nice. But then I got, again, nepotism is a wonderful thing. One guy told me, oh man, you know what? The only reason you got that band, your father left you that band. I said, well, what if he would have had a bodega or a dry cleaner or a supermarket? Well, that's what I would have gotten too. Would you be envious if he would have left me a shoe store or whatever? So, I didn't pick. If it was up to me, well, we got in trouble with that one day. Daddy said, well, you guys are lucky. We said, well, yeah, we'd be lucky if we were Rockefellers or Roosevelts or Kennedys. We'd have millions of dollars, He goes, yeah, well, yeah, I guess you're right on that one, But we had the same things anyway, and even more. So, that's a pretty good thing. We're happy about that.
If you don't mind, I want to ask a few more questions about the early days when he forms the Afro-Cubans. We're talking early 1940s, yes? And I'm sure he struggled, as did many immigrants who came to this country, yes? And he writes a song that becomes a kind of hit for him, and it's about this pigeon soup.
Yeah, sopa de pichon. Well, the sopa de pichon, again, like all Puerto Ricans and Cubans and everything can be remedied with a chicken soup. And by the same token, a pigeon soup. And I think my mother was pregnant at that time. And his big thing was, tiene que tomarte una sopa de pichón para que baile y que te dé inspiración. Big hit, huge. But keep in mind, nobody was declaring anything about Afro anything in 1940. So then to come with an orchestra and name it Afro-Cubans was pretty heavy at the time. And again, that was partially Machito and also Mario Bauza. This thing of, we're Africans and we're Cubans. This is what we play. This is the strength of our music. So then why not be proud of that? So that's the name of the band. The only time we ever changed the name, we went to Europe and our promoter was also the record company owner. So he tells my father, Machito, we're going to record. Well, we recorded a Grammy Award-winning album, Big Hoop-de-Doo. We beat out Jose Light My Fire, Feliciano, Julio Iglesias. Well, as a result of us winning, they changed the categories. Because how are you going to spend $5 million on promotion for Julio Iglesias? And Machito, I think our record company spent $17.85
In stamps.
in stamps and manila envelopes. How can this guy win and this guy not? So then they changed it from Best Latin Album to 3 categories: Best Pop, Best Tropical, and Best some other baloney. All I know is that they had to create more categories because the industry went quite insane. The night before the Grammys, we were in the house and we were just hanging out and whatever, and we're watching Johnny Carson, and Julio Iglesias was on, and he didn't sing 1 tune, he sang 2. Who sings 2 songs on Johnny Carson? Nobody. So then I looked at my father, he looked at me, he said, you know what, let's not waste gas, let's not send anything to the cleaners, we're not gonna win. I'm like, how can we possibly win? But Patrice Rushen's manager, we had just been with them here in DC. He said, Machito, I'm gonna be in LA. So what I'll do is, since they announced early, I'll call you, I'll let you know if you won or not. And we were like, yeah, okay. Wouldn't you know it? Boom, because, hey, Machito, you won. I said, won what? He said, you won the Grammy this year. I said, you're kidding me? I said, yeah. They'll be calling you any minute now. So now he got up, he dressed, he cut himself shaving, you know, the whole craziness. And he went downtown, and the one that presented him the Grammy was a very dear friend of the family, Maurice Hines, from Hines and Dad.
Great dancer and singer.
They had worked with us up in the place called the Concord Hotel. Played 22 summers up there. I was the only kid in East Harlem that ate cold beef borscht with a dollop of sour cream. My favorite was always Liberace. Pretty incredible. But he started out, but you know what? As much as he struggled initially, which everyone does, the product was so good that you just couldn't go wrong with it, you know. That's why to this day, I've always said, when you talk about the big 3, you know, Machito, Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, you're saying it's the equivalent of Ford, Chevrolet, General Motors. It's a brand name, Hellman's, Heinz, you know. So then we've been very blessed to have 75 years of Machito Orchestra.
Now, those 3 band leaders you mentioned, Tito, and Machito.
And Machito, yeah, sure.
Were they rivals?
Yes, but only on the bandstand. They were the dearest of friends, very good friends. And I asked my father, very poignant question. I said, Daddy, let me ask you a question. In the Palladium, in the old days of the Palladium, in the height of all of this hysteria, who did you prefer to play with, Tito Puente or Tito Rodriguez? He said, no, I wanted them both at the same time. And I'm like, yeah, why? He said, well, Tito would beat the crap out of Tito. Tito would beat the crap out of Tito. By the time they got to me, they were exhausted. And with a ballad, I'd knock the 2 of them over. And you know what? It's very true. Because when I play opposite other bands, my intention, my thought is kind of bad, but my intention is to destroy them, to run them over like a Mack truck. My attitude is take no prisoners, just dead people.
Warrior.
It was how I was taught. That's the way I play.
So we were talking a little bit about his early days and the fact that he establishes himself in the 1940s as a band leader. I don't know how many of you have actually heard some of his earliest recordings. We all know like the hits that came later, but I wanted us to hear a little bit of something from 1940, 41. And we were talking about that Pigeon Soup song, the Sopa de Pichon. It's track number 2 on that disc, Mike.
quiero aconsejar con pena que te tome una sopa de pichón. Tienes que tomarte una sopa de pichón para que escriba y te dé inspiración. Tienes que tomarte una sopa de pichón. Una sopa de pichón. Tienes que tomarte una sopa de pichón. Ese hombre que escribe dulzón. Si el día del matrimonio te está fallando un riñón, si el día del matrimonio te está fallando un riñón, yo te quiero aconsejar que te tomes una sopa de pichón. Tienes que tomarte una sopa de pichón. Que canten lindo y siempre gordón. Tienes que tomarte una sopa de pichón. El pianero le gusta la sopa de pichón. Oh, per la vida. Tienes que tomarte una sopa de pichón. Que sean bien lindos y no sean del Japón. Amada prenda querida, no puedo vivir sin verte. Amada prenda querida, no puedo vivir sin verte. Porque mi fin es quererte y amarte toda la vida con sopa de pichón.
So, what do you feel when you listen to that?
Well, the funny thing about the book, there's about 1,000 arrangements. I don't know titles as much as I know numbers because the book is numberized. Sopa de Pichón, obviously one of the first ones, is number 25 in the book. Mambo Win is 317. Cuban Fantasy is 420. Zambia is 323. Tibiri Tabara is 300. Oye La Rumba, 521. I know numbers, not so much the titles. And the funny thing about that is one day I'm coming out of my building in the Bronx, and here comes this guy, and he says, "Hey, Mario, let me ask you a question. That tune that your father sings, that's, oh yeah, that's 341. He goes, what do you mean 341? I said, yeah, that's Que Bonito Puerto Rico, 341 in the book. He goes, coño, that's a good number. So yeah, he played it, it hit, right? So now I see him like a couple of days later. He told me, yo, Mario, man, mira, it's a 341. Me pegué, I hit that 341 number, man. I told him, yeah, cool, how much? He said, $500. I told him, really? Wow, man. He says, let me buy you a beer. Can you imagine? $500, a beer. And it was a country club. It wasn't even Budweiser or Coors Light or anything, Yeah, numbers. One of the biggest fights that I had with Daddy, which, was like a week-long fight, we used to travel, or he used to travel with the individual boxes. Every musician had a box of music, so you're lugging around 13 boxes. And then checking into the airport, it was insanity. So I told him, Daddy, you know what? We can't be traveling around with 1,000 arrangements. This is silly. Even if we play 2 sets, how many tunes can we play in 2 sets? 20? 25? Let's make a smaller book, with say maybe 50 or 60 arrangements. You pick out the ones you like, And that's what we travel with. He says, yeah, but what if somebody asks me for something we don't have? So I'm like, you know what? Trust me. Nobody's going to ask you for something that you don't have. I make the new book. I even had, now I'd probably go to jail if I would have called McDonnell Douglas and Grumman, because I wanted the exact measurement to make a case that would fit under the seat in front of me. They don't give that information anymore, but they did 30, 40 years ago. So I had a box made that would fit exactly underneath, because you never check in the music. Anyway, we go out on the road. We're playing gigs. Everything's fine. Everything's beautiful. We're at like 4 or 5 weeks. Everything's swinging. Here comes some banana and says, oye, Machito, tócate ahí, you know, el lado de la rumba. And he turned around and he looked at me. He says, you got that in the book? And I looked at him and I said, no. Well, let me tell you, he went insane for like the next 2-3 days. But then after that, he kind of calmed down about it. But because he felt, you know, if somebody asked for something, he should have it. You know, it was just his, you know, crowd control. The best one was, when it comes to numbers and arrangements, they asked us to play at the Federal House of Detention for the prison system in New York. And these guys were going to get all shipped out to all different high security prisons across the country. So now they requested, you know, music. So then they call Machito Orchestra. So we go to the jail, you know, we're behind the curtain, the band's tuning up, like, and we hear people out front, hey, Machito, 321, hey, Machito, 556, hey. When they opened up the curtain, it was all our friends. They were all locked up. And, you know, they were being shipped out, Texas, Leavenworth, you know. We have some people here that spend a little time in Leavenworth, on the good side of Leavenworth. Yeah, right? You guys were in Leavenworth, weren't you? Yeah. So, yeah, you know, he always thought that. So then we play. And then the funniest thing was that now we're leaving. You know, the gig is over and we're leaving, you know. And one of the guys told me, yo, listen, man, you know, can I have those maracas? So I'm like, yeah. So now he's walking out with the band, like he's part of the band with them. And so, like, one of the security guys, like, grabs him, yanks him back. You know, crazy stuff. One thing I want to touch on, maracas. Maracas was Machito's instrument, you know, whatever. So now they would always steal them. They would always steal his maracas, no matter where he hid them, in the piano, behind the bandstand, and no matter what, they'd steal them. So now we go to Europe, and we were going to be out, man, like 10 weeks, man. It's a long time. So I took his pair of maracas, wouldn't you know, second gig, third gig, they steal them. Now he's furious. Where's my maracas? I told him, don't worry about it, bro. We're in Berlin. There's got to be a music store. I'll get you a pair. When I went in, there was 2 pairs left. So I said to myself, you know what? I should get the 2 pair just in case. Give him his maracas. We did a whole bunch of gigs. They steal the maracas. So now he comes to me. Listen, I told him, chill. I got another pair for you. Here you go. And this is your model. When Latin Percussion made it, the mold, that's Machito's mold, his favorite design. Anyway, they've sold about 80 million pair of those. Haven't seen a penny, but that's cool. So now, next city I go in, I bought 5 pair of maracas. And I saw one pair, which I'm sure you've seen, those old traditional maracas with the coconuts painted on them and palm trees, you know, real corny, you know. Well, he went through the other 5 pair in the span of the trip. Now we're down to the last week of the trip. No maracas. I'm like, oh, man. I said, well, you know what? I got that bluff pair that's more decoration than anything else, you know. But now as I'm ready, that I'm going to give it to him, I'm saying, man, you know, he's going to freak out when I give him this, you know. I mean, what is he going to say, you know? So I come to the gig, I tell him, yo, you know what, I'm sorry, bro, but this is what I got. And he looks at him, he goes, wow, these are the best maracas I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, really? And he goes, those are the ones I'm going to use tonight. So then, as much as he concerned himself about a lot of things, you know, he was really big into his maracas. As a matter of fact, my mother, well, let's just say that maracas is a very important instrument.
Yeah, he could really play, too. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of singers stand up in front of the band, and they just sort of play a few little patterns. Machito could really play those things.
Yeah, yeah.
Did he teach you anything about how to play maracas?
Well, one day Daddy tells me, I'm sending you to a jingle with Chico Farrell to cover for me. It's okay, cool. What am I playing? He says, you're playing the maracas. So I looked at him, and I must have been about, you know, around that time, 15, 16. I told him, you know what, Daddy, strangely enough, I don't know how to play the maracas. He goes, what do you mean you don't know how to play the maracas? What are you kidding me? You're my son. You don't know how to play the maracas? I said, Daddy, you never taught me. I don't know. He goes, all right, go get a couple of pair of maracas. So then I go, music room, living room, come back. So he's standing in front of me, you know. So now I'm standing in front of him. He's showing me the motion, you know. Couldn't get it, you know. Now we're standing side by side, looking in the mirror. Couldn't get it, you know. So now he's at his wit's end, you know. He says to me, Jesus, coño, I can't believe that you can't play the, how can that be? You're not my son. I'm gonna, you know, I'm like, yo, man, you know. So now he says, wait a minute. So now he stood behind me and he held, you know. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool, you know. So now I go to the recording, whatever the case might be. So I come home. And he says to me, how did you do? I said, no, it was fine, man. It was great. He said, did you play the maracas the way I told you? I said, yeah. He says, as a matter of fact, Chico Farrell told me I play better maracas than you. Whoa! Yeah. It's a tremendous instrument. And again, there are many patterns that you can use. But his pattern was very slick. And his whole thing was, I use this pattern because I don't want my jacket to get wrinkled.
Yes.
You know, many maraca players keep the maracas tight. So now when you let go, your jacket is all, you know, looks like an accordion. But his motion was more out. So therefore his jacket and the crease would stay as is.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for a period of a good 20, 25 years, he, along with Tito and Tito, they're at the top. They're at the summit of Latin music in New York. And then by the time the 1960s, especially mid and late 60s roll around, tastes are starting to change. There's a new generation, yeah? They're not so much interested in the classic stuff as much as they want the new dance rhythms. They want pachanga, they want Latin soul, they want boogaloo.
Boogaloo.
Yeah. So how did Machito adapt, or how well did he adapt?
Machito's philosophy was if you can't beat them, join them. My Uncle Mario, no. Mario was very hardcore on what he wanted. Very tough to twist his arm. But Daddy, no. You know, his thing was, we were his sounding board. We never listened to Machito's records in my house. We don't have record collections. If you want to find the most complete record collection of Machito, go to Our Lady Queen of Angels Grammar School on 112 between 2nd and 3rd. And the nuns have all those records. Because Daddy would come home with a box of 25 albums and give them out. The Butcher, The Dry Cleaner, Salentos, You know, all the places that he shopped, he'd give them these record albums. We never kept them. You know, we give them away. As a matter of fact, one winter, we were all out. You know, we were all leaving. We all had our cars. And so it had snowed, so there was ice on all the windshields. So my brother and my sisters, they opened up the trunks and they took out Daddy's albums, broke them in half, and used that to scrape the ice off the windshield, you know? We used to use those albums to keep the windows open in the summer to get fresh air. You see? So now here comes Daddy, and he sees us, you know? Now, when we looked at him, our initial thing was like, oh, man, he's gonna freak out, you know, with this. I mean, look what we're doing, you know? And he looked at us and he goes, listen, give me that other half. And he was scraping the ice off the windshield with his own records. These things didn't mean, later on they did. Like when we would go to Europe, he'd go to the record stores and buy his own albums. And I would tell him, I said, Daddy, what are you buying your own albums for? He goes, it was such a long time ago, I forgot what's on it. I'd like to hear it again, you know? I mean, we weren't collectors of Daddy's stuff, not at all.
Do you think he got his royalties? Did he ever get exploited?
Sure. Well, what we discovered when all these world searches, we didn't know that Machito sold records in the Soviet Union and in Italy, France, Germany, Holland, Belgium, Sweden, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Spain, Portugal. We had no clue that he had record sales in all those countries. Then we did start getting a lot of royalties back and that was a very positive thing. We still do. When they turned over all the albums to CDs, we did very nicely on that. So then, we certainly have seen royalties and we do. I mean, it's not like Michael Jackson royalties or anything like that, but certainly, yes, we do.
Okay, so back to this period, this transition period, where he starts to adapt the orchestra to changing tastes. And then, as so inevitably happens, the phone doesn't ring as often for gigs. And I know when we were talking a few months ago, you were telling me how important Dizzy Gillespie was at that time, at that period in his career. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, the first thing is that the relationship with Machito and Dizzy was from way, way back. He was Mario Bowser's roommate when they were in Cab Calloway's band. So then the friendship was a very long one. And Dizzy saw that we were having a little bit of a tough time there booking big bands, because big bands was out. You know, the era was over. And even Dizzy himself had a tough time booking his full orchestra. So then what he did was he made us his accompanying orchestra, which took the pressure off of him and the responsibility of running a band, but knowing that he had a band that would play whatever needed to be played. And strangely enough, when Dizzy worked with us, he didn't play his music, he played ours. We didn't play Manteca or Ting Ting Deo, or we never played any of that. We used to play straight ahead Machito music, and Dizzy would blow on top of that, which was incredible. And as I had told you, Dizzy brought back to life Machito Orchestra in a huge way and gave me credibility. When my dad passed away, that was it. We were done. You know, that's the end of Machito Orchestra. Forget about these guys. This is finished, you know. And I was home 6 months. Phone never rang. 6 months. And I was like, yo, I'd pick up the phone, see if it was working, you know. And Dizzy Gillespie calls me. He told me, yo, Mary, man, what you doing, man? I said, Jesus, Dizzy, I'm not doing nothing. So he goes, okay, they're going to call you from the Village Gate in New York City. Jack Hook and Ralph Machito and these guys, they're going to call you up. And they're going to tell you that they want you to accompany me at the village gate. They don't want you to accompany me at the village gate. But I told them that I'll only do the village gate if you accompany me. You ready? I said, yeah. It's all right. They're going to call you. I said, okay, cool. Hang up the phone. 15 minutes later, hey, Mario, listen, man, we're calling from the village gate. Hey, we'd love to have you come down and play a gig for us. We got Dizzy. Dizzy's going to do it, and, that'd be nice. Are you available? I said, yeah, I can make that. Boom. Back to life. Machito Orchestra. Incredible. Then he calls me back, tell me, yo, the gig went real nice. I liked it. Let's go to Chicago to do the jazz festival. I got Johnny Griffin, Art Blakey, George DeVivier, Randy Weston, Melba Liston on the band. I want you to accompany me. And and the rest is history. I'm here.
And then he helped you break into the European market in a big way.
We had never tapped that market, so we were fresh as a daisy. So when we got to Europe the first time in '75, we played in Paris and we played in Berlin. They knew us, we didn't know them. And that was incredible. Then we went to Europe one summer. We played 55 concerts in 66 days. We covered 13 countries and 35 cities. We traveled by bus, train, plane, ferry, 10,000 miles.
That's how you do it.
Yo, that's how you do it, and that's how we did it. And at the front of the bus, and at the front of the train, and the plane, and the ferry, and the bicycle, and the roller skates was Machito. Because even though he was an old lions still have a couple of teeth, and they can roar.
Speaking of which, 'cause you mentioned earlier that Mario was kind of a tough guy, Mario Bauza.
Good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, so tell me about your father's personality, not just as a band leader, but just what he's like as a person.
Well, as far as music was concerned, Machito had his own holy trinity, which was Mario Bauza, Chico Farrell, Rene Hernandez.
Those are the three arrangers he used.
He put his undying faith in what they said. But every now and then, he would say, no, this is the way I want it. And then that's the way it was. But 99% of the time, all decisions were made by Mario. One of the ones that Daddy made, which was a biggie, was when the Boogaloo came. Boogaloo, Machito playing Boogaloo. You got to be kidding me. That's for the kids. Joe Bataan and Willie Colon and Hector Lavoe and orchestra DJ, the LeBron brothers. That's what was happening. As a matter of fact, my brother-in-law used to book those bands to throw dances in Harlem. But they came to Daddy, and a man named George Goldner, who had worked with Morris Levy and those kind of guys. So I was like, Machito, you know what, Machito? You're out of style, Machito. Nobody knows you, Machito. You're done. You're done. You know what you got to do, Machito, to come back to life? So Daddy says, yeah, George, what do I have to do to come back to life? He says, why don't you do a Boogaloo? That's what's happening now. All these kids. It's the Boogaloo. They don't know anything else. They don't know Machito. Maybe their grandparents, but they don't know who He says, I got a kid on my label named Joey Pastrana. He's hot as a pistol, driving around in a brand new Lincoln Continental. Let me get him together with you for him to write something for you. Now, can you imagine telling us a 50-something-year-old man who's been a superstar that an 18-year-old kid is going to write for you? I mean, that's pretty crazy. But he comes to Daddy and says, Machito, you know what, Machito? I got a Boogaloo for you, man. He said, yeah, Joey? How does it go? He says, I wanna see. So Daddy's looking at him and he's like, but he said, "You know what, Joey? Yeah, I like that tune. Let's record that. Mega hit. Mega hit. Well, we moved to the Bronx from after the, we moved from East Harlem to the Bronx. Oh, hotsy totsy. Ooh, to the Bronx. Whoa, that was big, you know? Oh, yeah. So then he had moments when his decisions were right on the money. Incredible. I don't know how he did it, but he had a knack for picking the right piece at the right time, you know, the pulse of what's going on. You know, unfortunately, I don't have that, but he did. You know, he knew when it was time to move into something new.
Let me take a moment to just say how Mario and I first really connected was after this performance at the Kennedy Center. I met him at his hotel. And I, to this day, I regret not bringing a tape recorder because he told all these incredible stories. And then that's when I planted the seed about, you know, you have the library. Have you thought of a home where it might become accessible for scholarly researchers or musicians? And so I encouraged him to think about that and said, anytime you want to talk about the Library of Congress as a home for that, let's talk. Well, I was blown away by the fact that he then goes and reaches into his bag and he pulls out this arrangement of tanga. It's arranged by Rene Hernandez. It's in his hand. This is one of the great signature pieces by Machito. And he gives it to me and says he wants to donate this to the Library of Congress. So it was not, I was not expecting that. I was so grateful on behalf of the library because this is the kind of thing that scholars need to see. They come to us all the time. And in fact, there's very little in any library, in any archive, anywhere that documents this golden age of Afro-Cuban or Latin music and Latin jazz in the United States in the 40s, 50s, 60s. You go to all the great libraries, there's next to nothing from this genre. And so, yes, we're grateful for this, but we continued to talk, and then Mario decided he wants to give the library the whole collection of scores, parts, and other things to the Library of Congress. Now, can you talk a little bit about why you decided on the Library of Congress for it?
Well, certainly and most obviously, the Library of Congress is the oldest institution of its kind in the United States of America. If I'm not mistaken, it was founded in 1800. There's been 2 fires here. I hope there's not a third. And some of the most important scholarly works in all areas are here. Now, most certainly, I had thoughts about keeping the music in New York, keeping it at home. Maybe institution of higher learning, you know, Juilliard School of Music or Manhattan School of Music, jazz at Lincoln Center. But I thought, you know what? No. If you want to be any place, it's the Library of Congress. Took 75 years, but we're here. Yeah.
This is the place for it. And I know at the time you were mentioning how important it is that not just people in this generation understand who he was, but every generation that follows will now be able to come here, research his music, understand more about what this man meant, what he represented to his family, to his community, and to the culture of the world. So it's here, it will be preserved. We encourage everybody to come and make use of this collection because it's not enough to just put things up on a shelf somewhere. This is a living archive, a living library. And to that point, I want to encourage everybody at the end of this, we have a display of materials that Mario brought to us that he's donating. You'll see these extraordinary scores, handwritten, and this is what we are going to do from now into the future. We're going to serve these materials in the in the music division's reading room, the performing arts reading room. So it's here, it's safe, it will be preserved. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Yes. And now I think it might be appropriate, if anybody has any questions for Mario, this would be a good time to ask. And let's begin right here.
Yes.
Oh, hold on. We have a microphone for you.
Hi, my name is Diane Harris, and I wanted to thank you for your time. And a question I have is, your aunt Graciela, did she have anything to do with helping with the arrangements of music?
Well, yes, in a very real way, because if she had heard a song or a lyric brought to her by a writer, she would then sit with our pianist, Rene Hernandez, and sing these melodies, and he would arrange accordingly. But she always had final say over the material and what she wanted to record and how she wanted to record it. Gracie came to the band in 1943 when Daddy went to the Army. So she stayed with us until 75, so that's like 32 years in Machito Orchestra. Like I say, Mario came in 1940 until 75, so 35 years. So yes, she was very instrumental and gave the band another character. I mean, her ballads are out of this world.
She also did some great novelty tunes.
Oh, of course. Very well. Gracie came from an era when singers sang everything. You know, ballad, guaracha, guajira, son montuno. You know, she ran the full gamut of ability as far as what she could do as a singer. Incredible. I've heard many. I haven't heard anybody like her. Certainly not.
Who else has a question? Yes. Felix.
Hi, Felix Contreras from NPR. I got a million questions, but I'll only ask one. Who were some of his influences? Who were some of Machito's influences vocal-wise?
Well, keep in mind, Daddy, when he started in Cuba in particular, he had two very dear friends, Miguelito Valdez and another gentleman named Panchito Risset. They were all the same age. They were in a band called Los Jóvenes de Rendición, because there was a band, Rendición, so then they were like the kid version of it. And incredibly, you know, those very same three guys stayed friends for 100 years. It was Miguelito Valdez that put Machito with Cugat. So those were his main influences. Obviously, there were other, Ignacio Piñero, those type of guys, Belisario Lopez, different orchestras in Cuba that he listened to and really appreciated. Sonora Matancera, as an example. So his influences were very wide, and then he was already listening to Duke Ellington and Count Basie and those orchestras while he was in Cuba. And I give you one funny one about Machito and his listening habits. In the old days, you know, when you turned on the radio in the car, it was a dial radio, you know, whatever. So when you turned it on, you pretty much could get a gauge on that person as to what they're into by the music that they're listening to. So we always had station wagons for all the equipment and everything. So I told him, Daddy, I got to borrow the wagon. I got to do something. And I said, okay, cool. So I get in the car, I start driving, turn on the radio. But it was like a heavy metal, you know, acid, you know, AC/DC, Quiet Riot, you know, Metallica, you know, Twisted Sister, you know. And I'm driving and I'm like, you know what? That's it. Daddy flipped out. You know, what's this about? So I continued on my way with it. Now I get back, go upstairs. So, Daddy, here's the keys. So I said, Daddy, can I ask you a question? I go, yeah, what? I said, have you lost your mind? I mean, what are you listening to on the radio? She goes, what do you mean? I said, I turned on the radio, man. You're listening to heavy metal, you know, speed metal, punk metal. What's the matter with you? He goes, oh no, I was turning the dial and the disc jockey said, this next album sold 5 million copies. I want to know, what are these guys doing to sell 5 million records when I can't even sell 50 records in my home borough of the Bronx? What is it? There has to be something for somebody to take their $10 of hard-earned money to go out and buy a record. There's something in there that appeals to them, and I want to know what it is. So how does a 75-year-old man listen to heavy metal? Doesn't make sense, does it? But yes, it does. Because you want to know, what is it? What, as we say in the music, what's the hook in there? Violence? Okay, let's be violent. You know, if that's what it is, let's do it. We play an extremely conservative jazz club, the premier jazz club of Europe, Ronnie Scott's in London, Frith in Soho, right by Piccadilly. So then Daddy would go out in the afternoon and watch the punks, you know, and then he would invite them to come to Ronnie Scott's to listen to the band. So then Ronnie himself would come and say, Machito, there's a couple that's telling me they're a guest of yours. One of them is Spike and the other one Razor. Where would you like me to put them, pray tell, Machito? Where will I seat them? Next to the Duchess of York? I don't think so. I don't think. Maybe with the Earl of Cambridge. That might be better. So, yeah, put them where. And they'd go nuts. They'd love it because our music is aggressive. And when he would see them, it became more aggressive. So he could connect with the audience, whatever it might be, you know, whether young or old or whatever their musical taste was at the moment, he could kind of turn them around for that hour set of music, which is, again, I can't do that kind of stuff, you know, but he could, certainly.
Who else has a question? Surely. Well, then I will ask maybe a couple more. And one is, after he was established in New York, he became this big star of the music. Did he ever go back to the island?
Never. Never went back to Cuba. As a matter of fact, there was a big stink about that. We were in London, and the ambassador of Cuba to London came down to Ronnie's. I said, Machito, you know why we want to bring you to Cuba? He said, nah, man, thanks, but no thanks. Never went back. Puerto Rico, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Peru, Argentina, yeah, fine. But no, he never went back to Cuba. Now that relations have changed somewhat over the last year and down the road, I think it would be spectacular to take the Machito Orchestra to Cuba. I think that would be quite something. But on the flip side of that, when we would play the carnivals in Helsinki, Finland, the winter carnivals, all the Cuban bands used to come. And after the first night, the second night, one of the musical directors of one of the other orchestras comes over to me and says to me, listen, let me ask you a question. Those arrangements that you play, how many of them you got? I said, man, like 1,000. He goes, and they're all like that? I said, yeah. He said, we've never heard this music in Cuba. You know, I haven't heard you play the same tune twice, and we've been here 5 days. How is that possible? I say, yo, my man, it would take like another 25 days for me to run out of things that I'm playing for the first time. You know, the book is deep. It's very deep and very varied. Machito recorded albums. I was telling him, you know, Machito goes to Memphis, where he recorded Knock on Wood and Satisfaction and things like that. Alfie. There's Machito plays Irving Berlin. There's An Affair to Remember. He did another one, The Sun Also Rises, based on Hemingway. I mean, so then the book is very diverse. So that's a good thing for me because I have option as to what I can go out and play on a given night. It's fun. The guys now, and my wife, I always tell her, it's the magic box. Because in that box, I got a little bit of everything. I'll never run out. I don't think so. So I'm hoping that my beloved grandsons will do that. Maybe. Hope so.
What I love is the fact that Machito's library now resides in our collection next to Mendelssohn and Mozart.
Well,
Those are the heavy ones.
right. I would go on a limb and say yes. But also, as you certainly know, Ella Fitzgerald,
Charles Mingus,
Jerry Mulligan,
yeah, Billy Taylor,
Max Roach.
yeah, Eric Dolphy.
Yeah, these are pretty heavy hitters. And as everyone knows, you're judged by the company you keep.
That's why I like to hang out with you.
Yeah, I'll give you a good one about Dr. Billy Taylor. Billy Taylor played in Machito Orchestra. So now we were playing a concert, I don't know if it was Avery Fisher Hall or some Avery Fisher, I think it was. And I take my daughter with me. She must have been about 5 or 6 or whatever. So I had to send her to piano class like you do with all little girls. And, she was walking around, like kids, So she comes up on the stage and Billy Taylor was playing the piano, And she comes up to him. She says, my name's Francesca. I play the piano. He goes, really, little girl? Well, that's very nice. And whose little girl are you? He says, I'm him. He says, oh, Marion. Well, you know what? Play something for me. Show me what you got. So she says she played Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And he looks at her and he says, nice touch. Can you imagine Dr. Billy Taylor telling somebody, nice touch? That's so incredible. But, I came one time to D.C. with an all-star thing, with Dizzy, and, and we're standing there, and it's all these monster musicians, the greatest. And I looked at Dizzy, and I said, yo, Dizzy, man, what am I doing here, man? I don't belong here. He goes, nah, man, you part of the club, man. Don't think that way. I'm like, whoa, okay, part of the club. I didn't know. Thanks for telling me. This Gillespie one time, we finished a concert. So now I had to play the drum set. Finished it. So I had been listening to these tunes for like a month on my Walkman. Listening. Man, this phobia to learn this material. So now we get to the concert, we play the concert, whatever. We come backstage. Who's backstage? Max Roach, Elvin Jones, Billy Higgins, Louis Hayes, Jack DeJohnette, the most incredible drummers on the face of the earth. So now we're standing there, and I'm standing there, and Dizzy looks at me and goes, yo, man, you know what, Mario, man? I don't know what, Dizzy. You're the greatest drummer I ever played with in my whole life. And I looked at him, and I was saying, gee, Dizzy, don't you feel bad embarrassing me, chastising me, degrading me in front of these guys with some cockamamie statement like that? I mean, really, man. He goes, no, man, you're the greatest, man. You know why? I don't know why, Dizzy. He says, now, I don't know if it's a tremendous level of consistency or a total lack of creativity. But when I play with you, I always know where one is. Because all I'm going to hear from you all night is tink, tink, a tink. But when I play with these other guys, they're crashing cymbals, rolling drums, crashing the bass drum. Half the time, I don't know what the hell is going on in here. He says, but with you, I know I'm okay. So then, that's why I say you're the greatest drummer I've ever played with in my life. And I looked at him. I said, well, you know what, Dizzy? Based on your explanation, I will accept your compliment. Incredible. One time my mother, we finished a concert, and my mother comes backstage with him, and they were talking, and she tells him, Dizzy, does he play any good? And he goes, yeah, Mama. He's working with me, ain't he? You know, he's one of the great drummers of the world, you know. Okay, cool. So now fast forward a few months, and my mother has her girlfriends having coffee and cookies in the living room. So mother says, how's Martha doing? Oh, Martha's fine, you know. She's doing, oh, what about Frank? Oh, Frank is doing well. He's going down. So what about Barbara? Oh, Barbara's fine, you know, she's got 5 kids. What about Marius? Oh, well, you know, Marius is one of the great drummers.
And he is also one of the great benefactors who has given this very generous gift, not just to the Library of Congress, but to the American people.
Sure.
Mario, thank you very much for coming today. Thank you. And thank you all.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.